And we are live. How's it going, all you amazing Mets fans? It's Wardy here, and we're breaking down the latest in Mets land in our latest, more long-winded version of our Big Mets Update segment that we're doing live right here, right now, November 17th, 9:07 p.m. Eastern. How you doing, everybody? First chiming in live on a replay. We got ourselves quite the show this evening, as we're going to get into the latest on the Mets and their pursuit of Juan Soto. We're going to retouch on that piece that came out yesterday from John Heyman of the New York Post, stating how the Mets not only met with Juan Soto, but it went extremely well. A little bit more of the details and our initial reactions as Mets fans. From there, we're going to get into a lot of the rumblings, how the Mets already offered a contract. Someone's saying $660 million. Now we're hearing today $702 million. Is that accurate? Should we be buying any stock out of these, or should we just take it for what is at face value and nothing more? And from there, everybody, we're also going to get into some comments from Steinbrenner himself on what the current belief is in himself battling Steve Cohen for Juan Soto's services this offseason in the crosstown rival between the Mets and the Yanks trying to land Soto. Let's get into it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for smashing that like and subscribe on as your first chime in. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys all so much for the well wishes. I greatly appreciate that. For those that don't know, I'm just over a week through recovery of having hernia surgery, and it still sucks. I really can't cough or sneeze, and I haven't sneezed in 10 days. It's insane. Every single time I try to sneeze, I have to basically hold it, or else I'm gonna be in immense pain. And it still hurts, so it's a lose-lose situation there. And I just came down with a cold today, so if I am gonna be taking some time throughout the live show to blow my nose or anything like that, I apologize in advance. That will inevitably be happening. The throat's scratchy. I've been feeling like absolute you-know-what today, but it doesn't matter because the grind never stops here on the platform. And there were too many things I really wanted to highlight with you guys today that I promised you when I did our 4 a.m. video on the latest between the Mets and Soto there all those hours ago. I told you guys we'd go live later this evening, and I'm going to make sure that I stay true to my word here and give you guys what you're looking for. So thank you guys for taking the time, smashing those buttons. Let's do a quick roll call, and then let's get into this live show. Your birthday's next Friday, Vinny DeJesus. That's awesome, my man. Happy early birthday to you. Steve, my man, great member. Hope you had a fantastic time there in Mets camp. That's so sick. Very happy to hear that went well. Vinny, Michael, Chris, my man, amazing member here as always. Good friend of mine. Bring Soto to Queens. You said it, baby. Vin man, how you doing? Vinny Morgan, Alex going up the list. How are you, my man? Going up here. Why not? Yoshima, great member. Andres, Mike, Michael Hoff, how are you? Thank you for chiming in. My man Jordan Simpson with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. If you know, you know. Hope you're doing fantastic, Jordan. What a beauty you are. John, great member. Explosive, great member. Rubber, KT, Scott A, Ryan Clifford, President, Keto Rising, James Rogress going up the list here. Danny Ruiz, how you doing? Randy Luna, thank you so much for taking the time this evening. Mike Norton, Edwin Castro, great member. Thank you so much as well, my friend. Going up the list here, Chalk Bunt, D. Garcia, the OG, and here as always, Daniel Denny. I know that he's probably going to watch this at some point. My man David West, a longtime follower as well. David, don't worry, I will get back to you in regards to merch. I know we need to have that discussion. Things have just been very hectic for me from the last time I spoke on live air where we interacted in our live show. So don't worry, I will be getting back to you in the coming days. Be on the lookout for that. George Santana, thank you so much. D-Ron, Michael Stroh, great member. Around the Diamond, thank you guys for taking the time tonight. We appreciate you greatly. Hines, how are you, my friend? Hugh, Will P, Mike D, Nathan, RJ going up the list. Ryan Clifford, president with a $5 holla, already says the following: Soto gonna come to Queens to be the king of New York baseball tonight. I also got engaged. Oh my goodness, my man. Congratulations, everybody. Can we please get some love and hype in the chat for Ryan Clifford, president? Of course, that's not his real name. Ryan Clifford, Mets prospect. That's where the name stems from here in the live chat. But whoever is the controller of that account was just newly engaged. So congratulations to you and your partner, my friend. That's awesome to hear. Always happy to hear stuff like that. So wishing you two the best with your future endeavors with each other. Fantastic stuff. Let's see. Oh, Jimmy, thank you for the kind words too. Really does mean a lot. Blessings to you too, Moonlight. Thank you guys for taking the time tonight. I know that I'm interfering with the Knicks and the Nets game, but listen, if you're a Knicks fan, you're feeling very good right now. If you're a Nets fan, you're not feeling too good at the moment, barring changes because the game is not over. I understand that there's still some time to go in the fourth quarter, but I'm not trying to step on any toes for my basketball fans out here, but this live show need to be had tonight. I have a lot that I want to share, and I do cover the Knicks on a pretty much not bi-weekly, but bi-game basis. Every other game on average on the Knicks Media YouTube channel that I cover. My man Richie there at Knicks Media. Check out the content there, everybody. Let's see. The train with the $2 house says, what would y'all offer for Crochet and Robert Jr.? I would offer essentially everything under the sun that would take to land those two coveted talents. Again, you're looking at Luis Robert, whose trade value is slightly down right now because they're coming off of a down year with him and his ailments. Garrett Crochet is at the highest value yet, given the fact that he pitched over 100 innings this past year, stayed relatively healthy, that we know, and looked dominant in doing so. I would give up easily top 5 Mets prospects right now, and then even further if I had to, in order to acquire some talents. By God, I would fly these guys myself to Southside Chicago if it meant you're bringing Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert. Those are two players that can help make this team a World Series contender next year. And look, the Mets were a World Series contender this year when they didn't necessarily have the talent on paper or the aspirations initially heading into the season to lead you to believe that they would land 2 games before getting to the dance there to face the Yankees. And knowing that the Mets got that far leads me to believe that great things are destined for them and their future, especially if they land young, coveted talent that fits both the short and long-term bill. I'm not going to harp too much on Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert right now, but to simply answer your question, there are a lot of players that I personally, as a fan, would be willing to give up, and I don't think David Stearns is all that far off either, because, mind you, this is David Stearns who did not draft the majority of the guys currently in-house in the Mets organization. This is David Stearns who did not acquire Drew Gilbert or Ryan Clifford and those trades that Billy Upper did a year ago. This is a different animal. This is a different element, and David Stearns, who doesn't have maybe the same emotional attachment or, just the emphasis I need to keep certain guys because I drafted them or I brought them here. Not the case with the vast majority of them that we know, given Stearns has only been here for a year. I'm curious as to how much that may play into David Stearns and his ability to part ways with some key talent on the prospect end as soon as this offseason. But all right, guys, how you doing, GSU? Hope you're doing fantastic, my man. How you doing, Dave Kaplitz, my amazing friend? Dave, I know I got to get to the P.O. Box. Thank you so much for the support there. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for the donations. John Gray, member 15 months, says, I'm more interested in what the pitchers were getting. Yeah, I mean, listen, when it comes to the pitchers, we're going to talk plenty on them. Don't you worry. There's been a lot of rumblings that we know between Roki, Sasaki, obviously, as of late, but the more obvious ones, in my opinion, that we're going to be paying attention to are your in-house options, and Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, Jose Quintana, your external options, Walker Buehler, Max Fried, going down the list, Corbin Burns, who I will say, I love Corbin Burns, but I'm not in love with landing him on a long-term contract. I don't think David Stearns is either. Then you evaluate the trade front there with guys in Garrett Crochet, obviously, leading the way in that pack. Jesus Luzardo, who we just talked about, in our Mets top 5 trade target video that came over this past week. Check it out, everybody. I think Luzardo would still make endless sense for this Mets team, coming off of a down year there for endless reasons. And again, everybody, I'm just pumped up to get in this one, so let's waste no more time. Wardy, what's your gut feeling on Soto? I have a very good gut feeling when it comes to Soto at the moment, but again, I'm not going to try to beat a dead horse there. I'm going to just let the information do the talking here, and then we can have our respective opinions as fans. And yes, it goes without question. And King Coney, I know that you didn't mean anything, wrong with your comment, but just please bear in mind, guys, I don't care where you guys stand on the political spectrum. If you guys are, Donald Trump's biggest fan, if you're Kamala Harris's biggest fan, if you're a third party biggest fan, what have you, please just keep your political opinions to yourself, guys, especially, post-election. I appreciate everybody's varying opinions, and I understand it's a testy time in this country, but at the same time, I'm here to talk Mets and baseball. I'm not here to talk about whatever your political affiliation is, because I'm being completely frank, I simply don't give a rat's ass. So let's just separate the two, please, so that way we can have proper discourse in the live show, as we always do, and I greatly appreciate you guys going out your way to do exactly that. If you guys don't listen and choose to do what you want, that's fine, but please know that you will be kicked out of the live stream, and there's a solid chance you will not be able to comment again on the channel. That's just because of how I run things. Again, doesn't matter where you stand, far right, far left, moderate, again, it literally does not matter at all to me. I just want to keep us focused on the topics at hand and not the topics that you're going to talk about with your loved ones for your Thanksgiving dinner, okay? Now let's reel back in and get into this one, everybody. Now, let me just start by saying, when I saw the John Heyman tweet yesterday, I was pissed off. One, if you guys want to know a little rundown on me, I'm usually up pretty late, but I just absolutely knocked out as soon as the main card for UFC 309 started last night. I blame my girlfriend because we were just getting all nice and adjusted and comfortable for the night, watching, laying in bed. She had knocked out right away, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to stick through this, and I just got really comfortable. I fall asleep. I kid you not, 20 minutes after I fall asleep, John Heyman of the New York Post tweets out yesterday that the Mets have officially met there with Juan Soto in LA, that being in David Stern, Steve Cohen, Carlos Mendoza, entire Mets brass, and it apparently went extremely well. The Mets were very detail-oriented. Again, a lot of positives on that front. What's one of multiple inevitable meetings that you are going to have with each other this offseason. But I will just like to preface that while I wasn't there right away, as soon as I found out the news when I woke up a couple hours ago into initially falling asleep, hopped on the computer, did a video right away. Now we're expanding on it now, and I'm far from surprised. I actually meant to tweet out, and I kid you not, God is my witness, he knows this. Yesterday, early in the morning, I woke up and I initially wanted to tweet, you know, I'm fully expecting us to hear something on the Juan Soto front at some point over the next 24 hours. Why? Because as we knew, initially heading into this past week worth of meetings for Juan Soto in LA, it was going the structure of the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, one of the two going first, but that's 1 and 2. Then the Mets would be 3 on the pecking order, a meeting with Juan Soto and his services, and then 4th would be the Yankees, which is officially happening tomorrow, barring changes. So knowing that the Blue Jays and the Red Sox meetings already happened, I knew it was inevitably happening with the Mets at some point over the next day or so, and then we find out late yesterday that ended up holding true. Now, as we fast forward to today, everybody, you're gonna hear a lot of the same stuff you heard to an extent with how the meeting went with the Red Sox, with how the meeting went with the Blue Jays, that they all went very well, that Juan Soto was impressed. Again, you're not gonna hear anything negative from a first team meeting, you just might not get a lot of information. The exact reason as to why I'd imagine that there's any dialect between the Tampa Bay Rays and Juan Soto's camp, that you're not gonna hear much outside of just the Rays showing interest, because the Rays having a shot of landing Juan Soto is the equivalent of me being the Mets starting shortstop for them next season. It just isn't going to happen, and we understand this greatly. But what we also understand is that the Mets have themselves a bit of a separation, a little bit of a gap versus some other teams going after Juan Soto this offseason. And that little bit of a gap is pretty gigantic when looking at the greater scheme of things, knowing that has everything to do with one Steve Cohen. And that's where I want to have a little bit of an emphasis about in today's show, everybody. We're going to transition into a bit on Steve Cohen, Steinbrenner, his potential belief right now on Steve Cohen, and then from there we're going to get into the potential contract offers that are thrown out there in the rumblings right now. Should we be buying any stock in this? Should we not? And then, of course, answering each and every one of you Mets fans' questions having to do with Juan Soto, the prospect of landing him this offseason, paired with any other player that you guys want to talk about. I'm happy to chop it up. Some guys, depending on who you ask for, I might already have stats to pull up, like Garrett Crochet, Bane, Luis Castillo right now, Bane. We're going to talk about some Devin Williams, Bane. We got it for you. You want to talk about some Corbin Burns, Bane. You want some Walker Buehler, Bane. Want some, okay, Severino, Bane. Again, you want some, who I don't even know who's here, Jeff McNeil. I mean, said nobody, but Bane. Again, we got plenty of guys that we can break down and talk about right here, right now. So let's do exactly that. Tyler, I hope you feel better with the Soto and chicken soup. I appreciate that. Guys, I kid you not, right before we went live here, I pounded a small soup from Panera of chicken noodle and then one of their like seasonal squash. Not gonna lie, pretty decent. I would highly recommend it if you guys are soup connoisseurs the way that I am when I'm a sicko like this right now. I just quit Twitter. I'm sorry to hear that, Heinz, but again, I'm wishing you well, my man. Thank you so much for chiming in. My man Michael with a $5 donation says, "Hey Wardy, hope the little one is great. My little one is fantastic. Thank you for asking. Really appreciate that. He's just a ball of joy every single day. That makes, truthfully, even when I'm down in the dumps, and I struggle with my mental health every single day, just like anybody else. But it's so easy for me to just turn my frown upside down as soon as I see that little man himself and Shay just giggle at me right away. It makes my entire day. It really does. Let's see. If the Mets land Soto, is Alonso as good as gone? Which I'm cool with personally. I don't think he's as good as gone if the Mets land Soto. I will say this, though. I don't think that's a slam dunk for Alonso to return if Soto lands here. I think the prospect of Alonso becoming and staying a Met for 2025 and beyond is greater if Juan Soto goes back to the Yankees or goes elsewhere, just for obvious reasons. Now, mainly, I think the Mets have such a heavy point of emphasis in prioritizing Juan Soto this offseason that could come to the demise of Pete Alonso to a degree. Now, I don't expect the Polar Bear to have nearly as big of a market as we're going to see with some other free agents out there, even with the Anthony Santanders and Teoscar Hernandez, because those guys are more serviceable when looking at corner outfield positions, DH time. Alonso is pretty much your standalone first baseman / DH, but a lot of teams already have those areas figured out. There's not many holes for active teams trying to pursue Alonso's services outside of a team like the Yankees, should they not bring back Anthony Rizzo on a lesser contract, after deciding to not opt into his deal for 2025 and beyond. Simply put, I think there's definitely a possibility the Mets have Soto and Alonso. That makes the most sense. Why would Mr. Steve Cohen go scorched earth this offseason and not bring back his top slugging first baseman, knowing what he did in postseason play was so significant and completely trumped anything, or what he didn't do rather, in Alonso throughout the course of what was a very underwhelming regular season when evaluating Alonso and what his career norms are. Tangus with a $5 donation. Thank you so much for that, Tangus. Hear me out. Sign Scherzer, JV, and Vogie. Trade for DeGrom. Tangus, I'd rather throw up a million times over again than go through that hell that we called being a Mets fan throughout the 2022 season or so. The 2022 to 2023, we had plenty of highs, but we had more lows there, and I am done with the uncertainty. I'm sorry. I love Jake, and I always will. If Jacob DeGrom got traded to Mets this offseason, I would still be ecstatic like a kid in a candy shop, but I'm fed up with the notion that we need to be constantly relying on injury-prone players, especially when evaluating your rotation. I'm sick and I'm fed up of my ace every single year starting the year on the injured list. I don't remember the last time that my New York Mets ace actually I do. 2021, Jacob DeGrom there, lost in Philly to the Phillies. Why? I was in attendance. I was at that game. Remember, like it was yesterday. That was the last time the Mets had their ace actually out there right from the jump to begin the year. Outside that, we saw DeGrom not start in 2022. I believe that was Tyler McGill. He didn't do it in 2023, obviously. 2024, no DeGrom. Kodai Senga's on the roster, but Kodai is without the Mets for the first half plus of the season. So I'm fed up with going after these grizzled vets and all these things. It makes sense if the Mets already have all their holes figured out on the roster and they're basically just adding as a luxury. But when trying to add necessity, what you need in this rotation is far from something such as that, whether it's grizzled vets and JV Scherzer types, DeGroms again. No, I'm done with it. We've went through that frustration far too long as Mets fans. It's about time that we get over that and stop complaining about us apparently having the worst organization in Major League Baseball when it comes to, handling players health-wise. We always would argue that, oh my God, we have the worst trainers, this and that. Let's actually acquire talent that knows how to stay healthy as well. I think those things go in hand with each other. Love Jake to death, but his heavy velocity is exactly why he has had consistent problems the past couple years. Love, all these other guys to death, but they have their respective issues for different reasons. Let's see. Francisco Lindor Prods, thank you so much for letting me know about your update on your name here. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. What would I do to get Jared Jones from the Pirates? I would give up a lot to get Jared Jones from the Pirates, but my big concern with Jared Jones from the Pirates is similar to Spencer Strider. Elite flame-throwing right-hander, but he's not even 6 foot, if I'm not mistaken, in Jared Jones, which means he has a lot of emphasis and a lot of straining on that arm and on that shoulder with his mechanics to induce the velocity that he throws consistently. My concern with someone like Jared Jones is that his body simply will not be able to handle the velocity he's throwing, and he may need to dial it back slightly to have more longevity in his young career. That's how I feel on the Jared Jones front, so because of that reason, I would love him, but I know the Pirates aren't trading him away anytime soon, so let's start there. Let's see. Ralph, thank you so much for the $2 holla, Ralph. Greatly appreciate that. Hope you're doing well, my man. D-Ron says with the $5 holla, or Darren, because it's one of the two, Stearns will make a deal like Yelich where none of the pro scouts did squat for the Marlins. Okay, prospects did squat. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I can 100% see David Stearns go out and do a trade of a younger, controllable player that maybe a lot of people aren't thinking of, that has yet to really hit his stride, playing consistently, really being a heavier emphasis on the team. Similar to Yelich going from a gap-to-gap hitter to now a tremendous home run MVP caliber player with the Brewers for a number of years that we know. I definitely get what you're saying there, and it goes in hand with, his experience during his time in Milwaukee that we all know very well. Thank you guys for those donations, folks. Andres, did I miss your donation? Let me go up. I want to make sure I don't miss anything, Andres. How's the hernia and how's Shay? I miss these streams. I miss you, Andres. I'm happy to talk to you right now, my man. Thank you so much for the donation. Shay's doing fantastic. Hernia's still healing up, but your boy's going through it. If Tyrone Taylor can get through hernia surgery this offseason, your boy Wardy has to get through it as well. I gotta be just like Tyrone. I can't be anything less. Let's be real here. Same way we're gonna be real here on the latest with apparently Steinbrenner's comments regarding Steve Cohen, folks. Let's check this out right here, right now. So as we can see, I want to give a shout out to Barbarian Sports Fan on X for tagging me in this, because I did check it out. It is believed to be true. Initially posted here from, let's see here, of Bob, I'm going to butcher on the last name, Klapish, who is an MLB columnist that we know from the area. So let's see what he had to say on Steinbrenner. To the contrary, Steinbrenner has a realistic expectation that Mets owner Steve Cohen will offer Soto the biggest contract, both in dollars and length of commitment. Mind you, this comes about a day after we heard rumblings across the land, including from Hector Gomez's everyone's favorite Hispanic reporter that's anything but accurate with his offseason reporting. Hector follows me. He's a good guy. I've had cordial interactions with him in the past, but Hector has been so wrong before, including saying how the Mets were close to inking Francisco Alvarez, or they were inking Francisco Alvarez to an extension last offseason. I'm still waiting for that to happen, It's almost like no one should have ever believed that when there was enough drama going on with Bad Bunny's sports agency and a lot of controversy there with the players union and the league across over the past year and a half. It doesn't make sense why Alvarez would be having an extension happen that soon, even with the Mets showing preliminary interest in a potential extension to happen for Juan Alvarez. The reason why I'm saying this is because we heard initial rumblings from one Hector Gomez essentially saying that, yes, the Mets essentially are deemed as the team that will not be outbid for Juan Soto's services. Even Yankees brass feels that way, and now we hear that apparently again from Steinbrenner, which couldn't come as a shock if this is true. I would like to emphasize this right here, right now. This is the same Steinbrenner, and this is where I want Yankees fans to really strap in, okay? Because they're gonna say, we never had a Juan Soto situation before. It's completely different. They're going to do everything for Soto. Are you sure about that? Let's see it to believe it, because this is the same Yankees team that needed the New York Mets to not pursue Aaron Judge, to land him on the contract that Aaron Judge landed, over $300 million. And that was because of a gentleman's agreement, a handshake agreement under the table, going back to when Steve Cohen first became owner and needed clearance from a number of owners in Major League Baseball. And a part of his good rapport and early friendship and deal with ownership of the Yankees is that he wouldn't step on the Yanks' toes when Judge would become a free agent 2 years or so into Steve Cohen's ownership of the Mets. Fast forward a couple of years, it's a different circumstance now with Juan Soto, because he's not this special homegrown talent that has been the case there with Aaron Judge for all these years. No, it's Juan Soto who's been there for a year, was dominant MVP caliber, playoff heroics like never before, stepping up in postseason play, which Aaron Judge can never do, that we know outside of 1 or 2 games at absolute best. Now Soto's looking for the bag. And Steinbrenner, who was outbid by Steve Cohen, the Mets, for Yoshinobu Yamamoto last offseason by right around approximately $25 million. The Yankees didn't want to go past $300. The Mets went to $325 on a long-term contract, and Yamamoto took that contract offer and told the Dodgers, hey, match this, buddy, and I'm yours because I want to play with Shohei, and the rest is history. This is a Mets team that has shown not only a willingness to spend, but a lack of stubbornness, the way that the Yankees will certainly have in their operations, should they invest everything in Juan Soto on, say, what, 50, 55 plus million a year AAV for 10, 13, 15 years? Am I supposed to believe that all of a sudden the New York Yankees, who have been completely stubborn in their spending in retrospect to what Steve Cohen's willingness is to do for guys that he wants, that they're just going to go balls to the wall crazy for this man and still make the proper adjustments for the rest of their lineup? I'm really hard pressed to believe that. I really am. They're going to need to be heavily reliant on their in-house options there when evaluating offensive talent. Spencer Jones is exciting, but how's he going to look at the MLB level? Jason Dominguez obviously has shown his flair for the dramatic, but there's still plenty more there. Anthony Volpe had a big grand salami that we saw in the dance, but that was about it. So my question is, why am I led to believe that the Yankees are really going to go out here and roll out this red carpet for a Juan Soto to make sure that they are not bested by the Mets or any other team in Major League Baseball when they still have to allocate plenty of dollars in other areas to their team that's going to set themselves back, and then they will have a repeat of something like 2024 yet again, where say they do get as far as a dance, but they're outmatched by a team that has more balance and actually understands fundamental baseball. Maybe the Yankees should have a further emphasis in understanding the true value of team defense, base running, and putting guys in the proper position of play. It's almost like that was their demise from the beginning, and Aaron Judge not knowing how to hit a lick in the stretch, unlike Pete Alonso. It's crazy how they flip-flop from the regular season postseason play. What I'm trying to get at here is, while there's still a great reality that the New York Yankees bring back Juan Soto this offseason, there's also a tremendous reality that we're going to exactly see what we have been seeing for a number of years, is that the Yankees will be willing to go far, but they're only going to be willing to go so far. And this is where the New York Mets can find themselves in a different echelon than potentially any other team. We're talking about throwing out north of $700 million without even need to be heavily reliant on deferred payments, because unlike the Dodgers, where Ohtani wanted the deferred payments because he wanted to make sure the Dodgers had a lot of financial flexibility, Juan Soto doesn't need the Mets to have deferred payments in order to still have financial flexibility. The Mets can give Juan Soto 50 to 55 million AAV this offseason without a problem for the next 10, 15 years. And what are we going to know? It's Steve Cohen with the famous quote that he said time and time again: this isn't about money. I don't care about the money when it comes to this Mets team. I did this, again, for a I'm going to butcher how to say the word here. For philanthropy. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm so tongue-tied right now. But he said, I bought this team for a reason. And it was for the fans, and it actually make us a perennial contender year in and year out. That's what separates the two. This isn't about the dollars, the way that's about the dollars for essentially every other team in Major League Baseball. Don't get me wrong. Steve didn't become a net worth of like $22 billion by acting stupidly with his spending year in and year out. But when it comes to the Mets, this is not an investment as it is as much of truly something that he wanted to give back to Mets fans, and as a diehard fan himself, to see it changing in the tide here in major sports in New York baseball between the Mets and the Yankees. And we saw Carlos Baerga, former MLB player here, say how apparently the Mets offered $660 million of an initial contract offer in their first meeting with Juan Soto in LA yesterday. Now, the reason why I didn't go out of my way to make a singular video on this is simply because it's Carlos Baerga, the same man who had Hector Neris going to the Yankees last offseason, the same man who had Freddie Freeman going to the Toronto Blue Jays a couple years ago. He's gotten things right. He had the Justin Verlander contract right when he first signed with the Mets, pretty much to an absolute T at right around $86 million or so. Very good job. He's gotten some things right in years past, but he's also gotten things wrong. So if you see anyone, I promise you guys, if you see any video, any article, anything that the Mets have put in a contract offer without there being a question mark, it's not official. There's been nothing to confirm that anything is official on proposed contract offers. What we're trying to figure out now as Mets fans is how much stock should we put in, if any stock, into these rumblings from various reports. Because this comes from Carlos Baerga yesterday. Carlos has his sources, he has his intel, but why should I believe that the Mets really already threw $660 million on the table in the first day of negotiation between the two, and what was a very positive conversation? Again, I can believe what I want here, but until we find out further reporting from, more trusted sources that's been reconfirmed from either Michael Mayer, Metzmerize, who does a great job, then on a league-wide scale, whether it's Ken Rosenthal, Jeff Pass, and what have you, then I think we can buy some more stock into it right now. As things currently stand, $660 million, by all means, do your thing, Steve. It ain't my money. I want Mr. Soto just as much as the next guy. And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out, why would you want Juan Soto's services? The big thing that stands out to me as a Mets fan, as someone who's watched Soto to his entire career since he broke out at age 19 or so there with the Washington Nationals, winning it all there in his first year essentially in the bigs, which is just so insane to fathom, and knowing how much of a direct impact he had in that World Series as well. Juan Soto is not this DH. To any schmuck out there, and I'm calling you guys out right now. I'm sorry, I'm doing it. Why? Because even if Soto goes back to the Yankees, even if he goes to a rival, my belief will still hold true here. Juan Soto's a generational hitter. Why are we going to act like he's not? I had someone comment on my YouTube video today saying, Soto's a 288 hitter this past season. He's good, but he's not great. I'm trying to be patient here. I really am. But how in God's name are we evaluating solely batting average as the end-all be-all in the big 2024 for baseball evaluation heading into 2025? If you guys understand the importance behind quality of contact, barrel rates, no strikeouts whatsoever, right? Dominating the strike zone, ridiculous exit velocity, basically being the 100th percentile every offensive statistic per Baseball Savant, which means he's in essentially a class of his own. Then you pair that with him being a generational hitter that can hit for all fields, that has power, driving, ripping that bad boy opposite field, Taco to the left, ripping towering shots there to right like he's done multiple times at Citi Field. He's hit absolute nukes at, going dead center bombs, clutch hitting in high leverage situations, 2 outs runs, a scoring position. Again, an 8-WAR player this past season, a 180 WRC plus, 80% better than the average batter in baseball, but I'm just supposed to believe that this is a schmuck that's just good, that's a standalone DH. Guys, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Juan Soto is a subpar defender for the next decade. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because his offense, as long as he stays healthy and doesn't completely fall off a cliff after finally getting the bag that he's been searching for since his young career started, Juan Soto's offense is going to trump his defense. He was an 8 wins above replacement player with, at best, average defense this past season, everybody. Let that kick in for a second. Let that soak. Juan Soto, even if he is more of a standalone DH 5 years from now, who's complaining when he's essentially Barry Bonds in that position for you? Who is complaining when he gave you the 3rd World Series for the Mets in a 10-year span? I will not be complaining. So that's just where I personally, as a fan, have such a respectful yet heavy disagreement with some of you guys out there that just don't seem to fathom how good of a player Juan Soto is. Miss the stuff about him being on the Yankees, and any fan out there that's saying, oh my God, I don't want another former Yank. We have to stop with this. We have to stop acting little brother. There's nothing little brother about wanting essentially the best hitter in baseball, not named Shohei Ohtani. That's what I'll leave you with for now, guys. But I've just been very perplexed by some of the comments. I've been truly baffled. Like, unless you guys, again, I understand that fans vary in their fandom and in their appreciation for players. I understand that some people really just look at baseline numbers and they don't do anything else. And essentially that is the end all be all. They don't evaluate the ball game. They don't do anything of that nature, and that it's okay. It is what it is. But I think for the fans that do evaluate the game well, that have paid attention throughout the course of the 162 beyond just the New York Mets, you know very well just how talented Juan Soto is, and you know damn well why you're going to unroll a red carpet for him, and why you're more than willing to throw out the hundreds of millions of dollars that Steve Cohen is ready to spend for his services. It's almost like there's a reason for it. It's almost like David Stearns is one of the best young savvy pobos in Major League Baseball, is ready to go balls to the wall for this guy. It's almost like there's a reason for it. Color me shocked. Let's put 2 and 2 together here, everybody. My man Edwin with the $5 holler earlier says, Uncle Steven is the only owner who can give Soto 65 plus million and still build a team around him. 1000%. And listen, I don't expect Soto to get 65 mil AAV. That'll be beyond bananas if that happens. But I definitely see a role where Soto gets anywhere from 50 to 55 to 57. I think he's at minimum getting 50. Let's start there. I don't think there's a shot in you-know-what that's going to happen. But I'm really curious where you guys stand on the Juan Soto front. Simply put, everybody, to our north of 1,000 viewers watching live here, folks, we're going to get into some further comments on some contract rumblings. Now from another big talking head in the New York space, not Carlos Baerga, but a much bigger one that a lot of you guys know all very well, especially during his long time and continued time there on radio. But before we get into that, everybody, I got a 2-parter for you. One, I want to hear from everyone in the chat right here, right now. Are you guys for or against Juan Soto as a Mets fan? Tell me that simply put in the comments down below. I really want to know. Are we in heavy unison where like 80% of us want him and 20% don't? Are we at a 60-40 split right now, which is going to surprise me? Let me hear it, everybody. As always, stop pointing out. No one's pointing out fake anything, Marvin, my friend. So unless you read something wrong here in the live chat, you must have gotten confused because there's not a chance you're talking to me. So let's continue it. Let me see in the comments, everybody. Are you for or against Juan Soto and his services as soon as this offseason, everybody? And while you guys are pondering being for or against Soto's services, we're going to take a quick minute to talk about our amazing sponsor that you guys and gals all know very well here on the platform. That is going to be our great friends at BetUS. Give me 1 second so I can pull up exactly what I want to pull up for each and every one of you. There we go right there, folks. You guys know the drill by now with BetUS. They have you covered with all your sports betting needs, so head over to betus.com.pa today and use Wardy's promo code YouTube150. That way you too can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125 on your second and your third up to $2,000 wherever your sports betting needs may be. And we hit big time on our 3-leg parlay over UFC 309 in Madison Square Garden this past night. We went 3 for 3 on all the favorite picks, but again, they were favorites rightfully so because John Bones Jones was never losing to Stipe Miocic. After Stipe got his skull freaking crashed in by Francis Ngannou a couple years ago, I knew that Stipe was never going to be better than what we've seen throughout his career. John Bones with an absolutely devastating roundhouse against spinning back kick straight to the rib, liver shot. That did it for his career. Charles Oliveira proving yet again why he's a spider monkey, and while Michael Chandler, while he's always an entertaining fighter, is also one of the dirtiest in the game. Michael Chandler loses yet another big fight there, surprised absolutely nobody. And Bo Nickel, who was a heavy favorite against Mr. Paul Craig, a bit too much of a favorite at 1,200, I'd suggest. I wish the odds were a little bit more favorable for the better. No less, he won straight in his bet as well, and that was a $50 bet that came out with a roughly $80 total turnout, folks. So if you guys want to get in on our sports betting picks that we place pretty much daily here on a platform like this, make sure you head over to betus.com.pa today. Please know that I'm not a betting expert. I'm just a diehard sports fan that loves to place his daily bets here with BetUS. And yes, I did have a separate parlay that had Mike Tyson winning outright against Jake Paul. And yes, I'm a dumbass for doing that. Shame on me. And I know my man Patrick Cassie, Pat, an absolute beauty that he is. I owe him $20 because we bet straight that Jake was going to win versus Tyson was going to win. Me being the schmuck that I am, somehow, someway thought that Mike was going to go out there and do more than what he did. Well, I knew that his knees were cooked to begin with. I know that he's roughly 60 years of age. I digress. Let's get back into this one, everybody. I do sincerely apologize for the intro running there for a couple seconds. That was not my initial intention. But what is my initial intention now is this, everybody. Listen up. Listen to the following here from Mike Francesa. Yes, everyone's favorite sports talking head. To some, not to everybody. This is Mike Francesa talking about the latest with the Juan Soto sweepstakes and how the Mets may potentially already have a $700+ million contract offer in for him. Let's listen up, everybody.
I think that it's pretty obvious that the Mets are not going to be outbid for Soto. I think we've all realized that. That their offer will be the sweetest. I would think if that's the case, and there's already been rumors of a 12 or 13-year, $702 million offer. I don't know if it's legitimate or not. I have no idea. I don't even know if there's any deferred money there. Remember, a lot of the money is deferred with Ohtani. There's been talk of a 7. Now, if it was 702, $702 million. $702 million divided by 13 is $54 million a year. $54.7 million a year. Now, the highest AVR, I think, is 45 right now.
Someone said in the chat as he's sleeping, and I don't listen to Francesa at all. It's been a number of years since I did when I was younger. I know obviously there are OGs out there that certainly loved, Mike and the Mad Dog. That was a big thing for a long number of years. I didn't grow up with that as much as I did with just listening to Francesa, more so from time to time when I got the chance to, and my young sports fandom. But yes, Mike is, as you'd expect, old, a bit delayed, but still trying to get the process out. So let's hear the final, north of a minute remaining in this segment and regarding Soto and the Mets' apparent $100+ million offer on the table for Juan Soto. Still figuring out if it works. Some people were saying Mike's smoking that good. Other people are saying that Mike's trying to work his iPhone calculator. I think all of these things can be true.
So that would be surpassing it by quite a margin. I have heard 13. I've heard 12 702. I've heard 13 702. If he's upwards of $50 million a year for his career, okay, if he's up there, I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, you can't.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who the hell Who the hell listens to Mike Francesa daily? If you do, I commend you. My ADHD head ass can't stand this at all. I listened to this earlier, and it's 10 times more difficult for me right now. In the meantime, guys, if you guys could smash a like and subscribe button, or north of 1,000 live viewers here on YouTube, and help us get a 500 plus likes by the end of the live show. Again, basically half you guys just got to hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're oh so close to 30,000 subscribers, and thank you so much for doing exactly that. Now it's here the last, not even 20 seconds, but what's going to feel like an hour, Mike Francesa.
You can't make them come to the team, but I mean, that's all you can do is make the biggest offer, and that would be the biggest offer, I think, by a lot.
That was it? Oh my God. I thought there was at least going to be a little bit more. Holy shit, that was bad. I like to clarify, this is nothing personal against Mike Francesa. That was a tough listen for those 2 seconds. It really was. But this is what I will say. Let's see. What about Andy Martino on SMY a few days ago said Mets have an uphill battle for Soto? Wow, color me surprised. Andy Martino, everyone's favorite Yankee, had something fairly negative to say about the Mets and their pursuit of Soto. When, mind you, Andy Martino is also the same person who had the pursuit of Yoshinobu Yamamoto wrong the entire time last offseason, and was under great belief throughout the majority of the offseason that the Yankees would be the team to beat between themselves and the Mets, when the Mets ended up just falling short of Yamamoto's services, with the Yankees being 3rd or 4th on the list. The Phillies even threw out a big bag as well, but Yamamoto really didn't consider too much. Yeah, no, again, nothing personal against Andy, even though I know a lot of people have their colorful opinions of Andy Martino, but he is another one too where we can only take his opinions so much, because especially when they have to with opinions, they're only going to get you so far. We care about facts here. What the facts are that we know is that the Mets have been heavily active on the Soto pursuit and went extremely well in their meeting with them yesterday, and the Mets are still deemed as one of the top favorites to land Soto services this offseason. Now, the reason why I showed you guys the Francesa clip here is simply because to have 700 plus million already thrown out at, say, 12 or 13 years, as what Francesa was trying to calculate on his iPhone calculator for a solid 10 minutes, is that you're looking at anywhere from 55 to 60 mil average annual value. That's a lot of money per year to shell out in one individual player. But even as we say that, even as we break down how much money that is, I think we should also bear in mind how valuable of a player Juan Soto is himself. And I understand that the market is always going to be inflated, especially after Shohei Ohtani's contract last offseason. No one should be shocked that Soto is shooting for the stars similar to Ohtani money, if not the same as Ohtani money, even while only being a hitter, because of how much the market's going to continue to drastically change. We will see a $1 billion man in our lifetime, and it's going to come in the next decade, 1,000% more than likely, given how talented these younger players continue to be, and given how much there's a heavier emphasis to lock in guys long-term, and in many cases even buying out their pre-arb years like what the Padres did and won Fernando Tatis Jr. a couple years ago. But let's head over to Fangraphs real quick, because they have a really cool feature on their website that many of you guys know about. That's pretty much understanding the true value of a player millions wise on a year-by-year basis on their production. So let's head over to Fangraphs. Let's do a deep dive on Juan Soto here briefly and see if we can find the numbers of what his value was as an 8-WAR player at around a 180 WRC plus in the course of the 2024-162 season with the New York Yankees. And thank you guys also to everyone that spammed the chat earlier saying that you guys were for or against Soto. From everything that I read, the vast majority seemed to be for. There were some people against. And again, I respect everyone's opinions. I'm heavily in favor of Soto if that wasn't obvious enough. However, even if we don't see eye to eye, I respect you guys as Mets fans or whoever you're a fan of in the baseball realm. And I appreciate you guys taking time to have some proper discourse here in the chat. So I'm going to go all the way down here. Let's go down to his value. I think this is very important here. What is Juan Soto currently being valued at as we evaluate him per Fangraphs? Alrighty, folks. So, as we look at RAR, RAR, and WAR, WAR, wins above replacement, combining all these numbers together, Juan Soto, in his first year in the bigs, had $1 million value at 29.4 in the 2018 year. In 2019, Juan Soto had a player value of $44 million. In 2020, in the shortened campaign, a value of $19 million. Mind you, that's when only playing a quarter of the season. 2021, his final year in DC, $54 million on the value. 2022, half with the Nationals, half with the Padres, a value of roughly $30 million. 2023, with the San Diego Padres, a value of $48 million. 2024, first and hopefully only year with the New York Yankees, we have here $65 million. Okay, so $65 million, $100,000 is what Juan Soto's overall worth was just this past season alone. So based on that math, and based on what his projections are for the next decade of 15 years, that is why teams are going to be, without question, willing to shell out at minimum $45, $50+ million average annual value for Juan Soto and his services. For the Mets, the big question is going to be, are they going to be able to land Soto, one, and two, are they going to be able to land him before getting to north of that $60 million AAV plateau? God willing, that's exactly what can happen here, and as you guys further see through Fangraphs, just based on the value here, I'm just moving the board here just a smidge so you guys can see a bit more of what I'm talking about. Let's move it all the way over to the side. There you guys go. You guys see the dollar amount? It might be a little small for you guys on the screen. I apologize. But he's already been worth roughly $300 million as a player since he made his debut in 2018. So that alone tells you Juan Soto is going to be gaining an absolute bag. But that also tells you that Juan Soto is absolutely destined to get the money that you guys may think is a massive overpay. But the reality is that this is exactly what it's going to take to land this guy's services, because they do value these numbers a lot more in today's contract negotiation than ever before. I've heard throughout the tea leaves, throughout people in front offices nowadays, when they've learned about player evaluation, they do have a heavy point of emphasis with this newfound information from Baseball Savant, from Fangraphs, from Baseball Reference, etc., what have you. Again, all these websites have great advanced information on how to properly evaluate a player, on their team value, on their individual value, as well as their market value. And given his current market value after having a $65 million worth year with the New York Yankees, Juan Soto's going to be getting a pretty payday, deservedly so. If you guys don't want the Mets to be the proper suitor for his services, that's fine. I just got a bridge to sell you if you think that the Mets don't have a chance of landing him. Far from it. They are a top dog to land his services, understandably so. Sean, great member of 14 months in here, says, I think we get him at $725, 15 years and as a Met. It's just so insane to think of the Mets spending more money on Juan Soto than the Dodgers spending on Shohei Ohtani. But who knows? Who knows at this point? I'm not going to sit here and say that, okay, you know, it's guaranteed going to be this, because we don't know at the end of the day. And that's what makes it both fascinating and a little nerve-wracking to find out what dollars is going to take for Soto, but thankfully it isn't my money. Let's check out Pete Alonso's projection as well. You guys want to check that out, everybody? I've had some people ask. Let's break down Pete Alonso's value per year as a player through Fangraphs. We can do that for sure. So let's go ahead and check out Polar Bear Pete Alonso real quick. We can't predict inflation, but $50 million a year, says Brad, won't be too bad, even in 7 years when Soto is only 32. He should easily be worth it for at least the next 10 years through age 35. I agree. And mind you, this is bearing in mind that there's no deferments and no opt-outs, when both those things could actually happen in his contract when it happens. We got Dodgers fans in here thinking that Soto's going to get $700 million easy. You might be right, my friend. You might just be right. So now let's get down here. I'm sorry, Fangraphs, but can we please F off with the Lady Gaga ads? There's so many better things that you could be doing than showing Lady Gaga ads out of all people. If you know, you know. Let's go down the list here. All right, guys. Starting in 2019, Pete Alonso's value, $37.6 million. We're going to ignore 2020. 2021, $28 million. 2022, and what was, in my opinion, his best overall year as a Met, $30 million. 2023, $22.8 million, and now in 2024, $16.7. Now, this doesn't account for postseason play, I believe. I could be wrong, but assuming that it doesn't count for playoff heroics, that value I'm sure would be a little bit higher. No less, for context, everybody, Alonso's been in the league for basically the same time as Juan Soto, yet Alonso has accounted for less than half of total value than what Juan Soto has been for his respective teams based on millions alone. Juan Soto has already racked in, per Fangraphs, a total of $290 million for individual player performance. Pete Alonso has accounted for not even $140 million as a player. So Alonso, who's obviously seeking a north of a $200 million contract for the Mets, they're going to definitely try to keep that closer to 150, 175 range and trying to bring him back. Because otherwise, as much as I love the polar bear, and you guys do too, I don't think that there's anyone that's trying to break their back to make it happen, where you're really going to overpay for the guy to make sure that he stays in Queens. It just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. Alonso, I think, has a great reality of coming back to this Mets team. But if he doesn't come back, I think it'll just be more so on a combination of the Mets really prioritizing Soto more than anyone else, paired with Alonso wanting to change his scenery. And I think a team that would be very fitting for Alonso, should they part ways with Alex Bregman, but still make sure that their team's talented for 2025, and that's the Houston Astros. I really think the Astros are a team that could go out and snag Polar Bear Pete big time. I think he checks off a lot of boxes for them at first base /DH, and, would keep their win now window very much still open. The Astros aren't ready to do rebuild. They may go for a slight retool, obviously, but certainly a full rebuild is not one I foresee to happen in the near future, nor should you guys expect that either. And yeah, I will say Devin is being a very respectable Dodgers fan in the chat right now. I know that we get disrespectful fans of opposing fan bases all the time, Kevin, but let's give Devin a chance here. He's being very nice, and I appreciate that greatly. And again, they deserve to win, deservedly so, 100%. And listen, they pay to win. And the Dodgers, if they proved anything for Steve Cohen and the Mets, is to go scorched earth this offseason. Because you can pay to win, to fit both the short and long-term bill. The Dodgers just proved it yet again. Spending money wins championships. Look at that Dodgers offense. Look at that Dodgers pitching staff. Name me every single player that was an in-house talent, and you're going to come to the great realization that very few of them were in-house talents. Most of those in-house talents were either traded or parted within the free agent market in recent years because they acquired other external talents in the free agent and trade market. The Dodgers need to build up their farm for a number of years to then get them to a comfortable point where they could shell out a lot of guys each and every year for top talents by the deadline, if not in the offseason, then spending big in said offseason. This is a Dodgers team that was built on spending first and foremost, the same way that the Mets will continue to be built on spending first and foremost, with a great farm and a great development staff behind him to make it happen. Let's see. Mets get Soto and Alonso, but don't get a free agent starter. They will trade for Castillo. Was that great? This is one thing I think is crazy, truthfully. I think any Mets fan who rationally believes that the Mets, if they land Soto and or Alonso, will not bring in strong pitching to the free agent market, I got a bridge to sell you, okay? The only difference is that the Mets say land Soto and bring back Alonso, you can probably kiss the idea of Corbin Burns happening goodbye. It's less likely because he's going to want a long-term deal as of now. But there's a lot of short-term options out there, and there's a couple I like a lot. I even like Blake Snell on the short term. Not having the qualifying offer attached. He's an ace caliber starter. I know he walks everyone their mother half the time, but he's still an ace caliber starter that was tremendous down the stretch. And when he finally got in a groove after a delayed start to the season after missing spring training there with the San Francisco Giants. Blake Snell on a shorter term option, I would be all in favor of if there is potential interest. Matthew Boyd, coming out of nowhere, back from injury, former Detroit Tiger turned Cleveland Guardian, gained some big punchies for them in postseason play. Matthew Boyd is a Swiss Army knife southpaw that I can see David Stern salivating over as we speak. Then you get into Sean Manaea. Then you get into Luis Severino. Then you get into Jose Quintana. Then you get into Walker Buehler. Then you get into Max Fried, who I think is destined for NL West until proven otherwise. I'll stand by that for now. Yusei Kikuchi. There are a lot of arms out there that are not necessarily frontline ace caliber, but will have ace caliber stuff throughout the course of the season for a team like the New York Mets here. So to any fan that thinks that the Mets are like, oh my goodness, we have to be so strategic on our spending. If we land Soto, we won't be able to land anyone else. Why is your head so far up your rectum that you guys still think we're ran by the Wilpons? I'm genuinely concerned as to why you think that. And this is not a slight to anybody. It's a genuine question. Why do you think that? Steve Cohen has given you no reason at all to believe that the Mets are going to penny pinch, that the Mets are going to make stupid, nonsensical moves. They've already learned from early mistakes. If you don't have faith, confidence, and excitement and optimism and the future led by Steve Cohen and David Stearns, then you're not going to have it with anything after the great run they had in 2024. So to kind of put a cap on this, and I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions before I get out of here, this is a Mets team that will not be going down for lack of effort on any guys that they're heavily pursuing this offseason, starting and ending with Soto. Burns, I'm sure, is a priority to an extent, but I don't think it's nearly to the same extent as Soto. Because again, Juan Soto's a generational hitter at the age of 26. You lock him up for a decade, he's 36. You lock him up for 13 years, or he's 39. Like, there's so much potential there. Versus Corbin Burns is already 30, and you want to lock him down to a 7-year contract? Maybe you do. But I can understand the pessimism there. That's why the shorter-term contracts between 2 to 4 years are what the Mets are more than likely going to hammer the hell out of in this year's free agent market. And unless the Mets are completely boxed out by time that they did all their big swings and potentially misses for Soto, Alonso, and co. this offseason, I really do believe that they're going to land at least a couple starters in the free agent market, barring, say, a blockbuster trade for a Garrett Crochet or a starter that you're not thinking of right now that'll surprise some people heading into the regular season. So, that's what I got to say about all that, everybody. Now let's get to your comments and see what you guys and gals have to say. And that was, again, from Mike Francesa over there. Let's see. Oh, yeah, final thing, guys. This is a little tidbit, but this came out over a day ago from my man Michael Mayer at Mets and Rise. Make sure to follow Michael. He does a great job. Always does. Steelers look really good. Damn right my Steelers look really good. Shout out to Ravens fans out there. Hold that L, baby. Can't relate. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, Jets fans. I know you're not happy. I'd be distraught, too, if I was a Jets fan at the moment. Thankfully, I'm not. Michael Mayer says the following. When the Mets have signed Donovan Walton to a minor league deal, the 30-year-old has only 70 games under his belt of big league experience, including nine last year with the San Francisco Giants. He's posted an 821 OPS in AAA this year at a 2.25 ERA in 12 innings, more so as kind of an innings eater laying game when the game's washed. His fastball tops out at like 68, so this isn't a little Shohei that we have here. This is nothing more than just a filler that you have at the minor league level there for some offense. That's essentially that. No more, no less, is how I would evaluate Donovan Walton, who very well might not even be a part of the organization by the time that spring training is done with as we head into the minor league start to the season. But that's the latest on Mets moves there, everybody. So before we get into it, everybody, let's get it. Steelers are not winning the Super Bowl. My guy, I'm not even thinking about Super Bowl right now. I'm taking it game by game, just the way that Mr. Unlimited is taking it himself. If you know, you know. You're on the Bills bandwagon, and my dad called that the Bills were going to win today, and I truthfully thought that the Chiefs were going to win in a dramatic field goal fashion at the end, and I was wrong. I was wrong. All right, guys, let me answer a couple of your comments before we get out of here. If you guys have any questions, player-related specifically, that the Mets are currently tagged to or could be tagged to, by all means, relay them now, and I will answer a bunch of them over the next couple minutes before we wrap up the live show, because your boy is exhausted. Like I said, I am under the weather today. The head's throbbing, the throat's scratchy, and I know I need to get some shut-eye if I got to do any content for you amazing Mets fans over the next couple hours sometime tomorrow. Let's go up here for a second. Do you remember how Soto reacted to a slipped public mention of a contract by the Nats? Yes, I do. I do, Storm, and it wasn't taken well. There is definitely stubbornness with Soto to make sure that everything is right in his evaluation and how he goes about the market this offseason. Bring back the 84 slogan, catch the rising stars. That's a dope slogan. I like that. Oh, was that the 84 slogan for the Mets? You know, because wasn't that after, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Strawberry's debut in 84, right? Because 84 Mets is like, you know, they didn't get far, but that was like the first taste of like what their core was going to be in the excitement level. And then that naturally transferred into 86. Freddie Peralta, is he available? No, he's not. Good question, though. Bring Keith Hernandez out of retirement to play first. There we go. Shout out to Haji. May she rest in peace. Haji was Keith's adorable cat of 22 years. Shortly after their 22nd birthday, had to be put down by Keith, and I know that's a really tough one for him and his family. Very unfortunate that we found out over the past week, sadly. How many years of control does Crochet has control until the 2027 offseason? And actually, I can tell you right now because I got a cheat sheet right here. Yeah, Garrett Crochet, 2027 offseason is when he's a free agent. Look at those sexy numbers. My God, he's so good. So good. If you love the Mets, say, hey. That's funny. When do I think Soto will sign? I hope before the new year. Early execs are saying sometime in the first week of December, but I don't think he's signing until after the new year. I think he's going to be a pain in the neck, but I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong on that one. Does Sevy take his qualifying offer? I don't think he does. I initially was hoping and had some optimism there, but I don't think he takes a QO, if I'm being completely honest. And guys, when we find out the results of the qualifying offer, on if they're accepted or all rejected and all that kind of stuff in the coming days, we will touch on all that to a T here on the platform. So I think the Mets still sign Willy Adames. I think Adames is a plan B essentially in certain areas. I don't think Adames is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be prioritized enough to happen, personally. Do I think we'll see Ryan Mauricio up at the show this season? I do. As long as he's not traded, I do think we'll see him in the bigs for sure. A package for Castillo, Jeff McNeil while you're eating the majority of his contract. Then I would probably go with a little tough. If they would have interest in Beatty, throw Beatty in there. The tough thing is that if you have to trade away top prospects, you want to hammer more of that middle infield because you have an abundance between Mauricio, Williams, Luis Angel Acuna. I think the Mets would be smart to trade one of those guys. So, like, essentially, there's a second base filler right now, McNeil, and also a more long-term plan in one of the others. I think that in itself could really get the job done while taking on Castillo the majority of his contract. It's going to take at least one top prospect for Castillo and then a uniqueness around the rest of the deal. And that's where I could see the Mets being a solid suitor for his services. Not necessarily the best team for the Mariners to trade with, but certainly one of the better ones. Martino's going on vacation next week. Oh, thank God. That's never a bad thing. Oh, no. You mean we're going to hear less from Andy? I wish the Mets would make a push for Sandy, but Miami will ask heaven and earth, everything in between for him. Yes, they will. I mean, Sandy Alcantara, they won't ask heaven and earth for him. That's not true. He's dealt with plenty of ailments since his breakout year a couple years ago. Alcantara's more of a guy where can he stay healthy? How's Prada's trade value? Not great. It's not great. How do I feel about Jesse Winker coming back? I hope and pray he comes back. That's how I feel about Jesse Winker. Let's see. I wish the Mets would make a push for... Oh, I answered that already. Let's see. I don't want to see Beatty on the field at all for the Mets anymore. I would like him to get an opportunity, again, if he's going to be in their organization, mainly in spring training, and then go from there. I like Brett a lot. I do. But time is ticking now. We are reaching a point where it's now or never, essentially, on if he's going to be a part of this organization or not. That's assuming that he's not traded prior to spring training. But everybody, having said that, that's going to conclude our hour-long live show. I, of course, went longer than I meant to tonight. So I'm going to get out of here, everybody. But I want to thank you all so much for taking the time watching live on a replay. Is really appreciated. Don't you guys worry when it comes to the Mets and anything that they do this offseason. Good, bad, indifferent. Don't you guys worry. We're going to cover it all to a T here on the platform. So on your way out, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. Again, it's greatly appreciated. And let me know your further thoughts through my replay viewers here on the Juan Soto sweepstakes. Are you for or against Soto coming to Queens? Do you think it's going to happen? And ultimately, when do you think Soto will be making his inevitable decision this offseason? Thank you guys all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Always happy to be chopping up with you guys in a live show format. We will be back live either tomorrow or in the coming days based on latest reporting, if it's going to be warranted to have that discussion. So until then, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this, everybody. Thank you for the well wishes, the donations, the subs, the likes, and everything. I'll see you all in the next one.